Welcome in, welcome in. Week 16, AC. Can you believe we've made it to week 16? NFL DFS, the Cash Process podcast. I am your host, Ben Hasser. I'm joined, as always, by AC. We are here to give our first look, our little preview for the week 16 main slate. This week, a little bit different. They moved it to Saturday because of Christmas Eve. So we get Thursday night showdown. We get the big slate on Sunday. We get a 3-game slate and some showdown on Sunday. So it's a little bit different this week, but we are here to give our first look. As always, we're gonna shout out our sponsor, OwnersBox Fantasy. If you're watching it on YouTube, be sure to like the video, and you can see on the sidebar. Head to OwnersBox down in line. Promo code Karma for your $500 deposit match. We make an OwnersBox lineup on our pre-lock stream every week. We have tons of content for free on the website for OwnersBox as well. We have custom projections specifically for OwnersBox as well. So we really hope you guys make your teams over there. I think it's really fun with the Superflex, and I'm excited to make some playoff teams over there as we head into the playoffs. Anthony, I told you that this is maybe the worst slate of the year before we started this video, so I'm excited to talk through it with you. Several extremely low totals. So it looks like, as of right now, Tennessee and Houston real feel below zero on Sunday. That totals 37. Real feel for the Chiefs game I saw could be 0 or below 0, but that total's still decent because the Chiefs still have a 30-point team total, so a little bit different. Buffalo, Chicago, real feel at or below 0 on Sunday, totals 40.5. So notice the difference between just off the bat, the Buffalo and KC. I know KC's at home, but they still have a 29-point team total even in extreme cold, whereas Buffalo's down at 24, 25. And then some other cold weather. I mean, Baltimore and Atlanta, 37.5. Browns, Saints, 32. I mean, that's the lowest total I think I've ever seen in a football game that at least I can remember of when I've covered fantasy. So a lot of gross games, a lot of gross cold weather, but still some money to be made. So what's your thoughts on the slate before we kind of dive into the positions? And how was your week last week? This week for me, week 15, AC was actually the first week I've had all season where I just got completely washed. I didn't win anything, which I guess I was kind of due for because I've been so good for the whole season, and you're just, you're going to have losing weeks at some point. But that was the first real bad week for me this season.
Well, you've had an unbelievable year, so I mean, let's not. They're going to happen, like you said. You did an amazing job breaking down the slate. You went really into detail. You took my weather hat this week. I like it. You did some of the work for me. It's the weather is going to be a huge deal. I have one bet on the board. I'm actually surprised, Ben, because I think I responded to you in our Discord chat, which you can access at dfskarma.com, that I thought I got the bet in Monday morning at 34.5, and I thought that was probably not going to move that much, and it is down to 32. So we're in Cleveland, as you all know. There's going to be 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts. I mean, negative 10, 15 degrees, negative 25 degrees with the wind. It's going to be insane here. There actually is a ton of money on the Saints for what it's worth. So, ugly games across the board. I don't know. I know you don't like the slate. Maybe the slate doesn't look sexy from a fantasy perspective, but dude, we only have a few more weeks of the cash process, of like breaking down the slate. So we got to enjoy it for what it's worth. But yeah, there's gonna be some good spots. We'll talk about them. I actually had a really good week last week thanks to FanDuel. I dominated on there again. I've had like my best FanDuel season, honest to God, I think ever, without question. DraftKings, I don't know how, Ben, but I like bubbled a bunch of cash games, and I thought I was just gonna like clean sweep them. And I had Zay Jones in my lineup, both lineups, and I surprisingly bubbled on DraftKings. I mean, I basically broke even on the week. I had a nice tournament team, but that's what I had going on, man. Looking forward to this week. We'll break down the slate position by position. Before I ping it back to you on my screen, guys, I have three monitors. One is the betkarma.com live trends. Like this, people ask, I get DMs, how do you start your week, AC? What's your process? That's like the first thing I do. I start with the live trends. It's a free tool. I'm looking at the betting percentage, the handle percentage, and the sharp percentage in specific for both money lines, spreads, and the totals. That's kind of how I start my process. I also have like our props comparison tool and our sports odds tool, and that those are like the second things I'm glancing at. And then as I'm doing this podcast with Ben, I have our DFSkarma.com projections portal up. It's loaded right now, Ben. I mean, I'm looking at the karma value. Speaking of which, I'm looking at quarterback right now. I see a couple guys. Who are you eyeing up early in the week? I mean, is it Minshew week? You might as well start with that news because he's already kind of popping in our projections, which you can access if you're a subscriber. This is how I study all the data for our DFS stuff. So quarterback, Ben, is it Minshew? If not, where are you going?
Yeah, so the news of the slate, the news of the NFL as a whole right now is that Jalen Hurts picked up this injury late last Sunday, and now it looks like he's going to be out a few weeks. So not only does this greatly affect, obviously, DFS this week, because we have Gardner Minshew for $4,800 on DraftKings, who will most certainly be in the cash game conversation, but it also screws quite a few people in season-long playoffs. I mean, at this point, anyone that has Jalen Hurts is probably, they're probably, unless they completely ruined the rest of their team, I mean, they're probably still in the playoffs, and they're probably heading to the semifinals. Yeah, best ball as well. I mean, we're heading down the stretch here for some big best ball weeks. And
shout out to Rube. I want to know your boy. I want to know
I haven't
your
asked
boy
him.
Rube.
I need to ask him.
Have in the semifinal, because I ran an experiment this year, and not to get off topic, our sponsor, Underdog. I had so much fun this year. I've never drafted so many teams. I've done it in the past, but I've just drafted like one or two teams. I did 30 teams. I had 6 make it. And I've only, I'd say unfortunately, but I guess fortunately, I did have one advance. I got one live right now, and it's anchored around McKinnon, who I think is like, he's got to be single digit low ownership right now, Ben.
I love some Jerick McKinnon.
Love him.
Yeah, shout out to Rube though. I need to ask. I haven't asked him in a couple weeks like how his teams were doing, so I'll have to reach out and see what's going on. But
tell him AC is live.
We're riding Jerick McKinnon to the title. But yeah, so that's the big news. Look, Minshew at 4,800 is going to be in the cash game conversation, like for sure. It's Tuesday, so I haven't made any decisions on my lineups, but definitely he's going to be in consideration. So when looking at quarterbacks, like we take Jalen Hurts off the slate, Lamar still hasn't practiced, and it's kind of important because typically Wednesday is like a rest day, but with the games being a day earlier, it's really Thursday, and he still hasn't practiced. So it kind of sounded like last week they thought he was going to play this week, but now it kind of looks 50-50. So if you potentially take Lamar off the slate too, that gives us really just Mahomes and Josh Allen at the top to spend up on. I mean, Mahomes is at home. It's against Seattle. You feel really safe with him, getting you like 300 yards. So I don't have any issues with that. I do prefer Josh Allen at 85, I think. I know like it's obviously lower team total. The game is a lower total, but Chicago's defense has been horrific. Specifically kind of early on in the season, they were really, really bad against the run. And they're still bad against the run, but they've been really bad against the last like 4 or 5 weeks, like historically bad. Jalen Hurts threw all over them last week. Obviously, he ran in the 3 touchdowns as well, which Josh Allen can do. But I think it's a good spot for Josh Allen throwing the ball. Stephon Diggs has kind of had just kind of average games the last few weeks. I think it's a really good spot for Steph Diggs to get going. And I do like Josh Allen, I think, if you're spending up. But I have no issues with Mahomes. Like, those are the clear 1-2. And then you have Minshew for cheap. In the mid-tier, I kind of like what you said earlier. You didn't think people would be playing Burrow in New England, which I agree with. I think Burrow's completely fine for tournaments. And I think Justin Fields, tough matchup against Buffalo, but he just keeps doing it, man. I mean, he literally just keeps running for like over 80 yards every single week. And he still provides you $1,000 savings off of Josh Allen. So I think for tournaments, you have to consider Justin Fields in play, even in a tough matchup. So I think Fields and Burrow for tournaments stick out. Daniel Jones, if you want to get weird, just because it's in a dome and you don't have to deal with any weather and he can run around a little bit. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Mahomes and Allen at the top and, Minshew for value. There's also a chance that Tannehill misses, and then that would give us Malik Willis at 4,900 against Houston. So, maybe that would loosen the ownership on Minshew a little bit because I do think more people would go for Willis just because of his rushing ability.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he burned some people, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. I don't think I ultimately played him, but I debated it. I don't think I'll go there. I like your call on Daniel Jones as like a leverage. It's like I was going to bring him up. I kind of circled that. He's popping in our projections model right now as far as value goes. Um, Lamar is interesting to me. I feel like his price is so stupidly low. I mean, of course he's got to play, but 7,200. Like I had to do a double take, and it's like, man, is nobody going to play Lamar on a 10-game slate? That is super intriguing. I feel like they are a 7-point favorite. That's got to be a warmer, game, I would assume, right? I mean, in Baltimore, probably not as cold. And then, without a doubt, my number one play of the week. I mean, he'll be owned, but it's Josh Allen for every reason you brought up. The Bears are just absolutely decimated on D, and they're giving him up in bunches too. I mean, the Eagles. I feel like that game wasn't as close as the score is. I don't know if that was your vibes, Ben, on that game. It just felt like they should have been or easily could have been. I couldn't put my finger on it. Up by 2-3 scores. And I am going with the best ball theme. I have my team that I think is live. I mean, I hate to jinx it, but it's a Bill stack with some other guys that I think are interesting on this slate, and we'll get to them. But I'm playing Allen on FanDuel, and DraftKings is my main tournament roster, full blown stack this week. All right, let's go to running back, Ben. Honestly, I haven't even really looked into this much other than I already know I'm playing Derrick Henry. I mean, we talked about that last week. Like
Yeah.
I have no words.
It's going to be – I don't know how you don't play Derrick Henry this week. He's going to be way higher owned than he was last week. Somehow he wasn't crazy owned last week, which I thought he was the best play on the entire slate. And I know I lost everything last week, but I felt good about the process there. I felt like he kind of ran bad. Like he could have obviously –
Yeah.
I mean, Tannehill ran that one close one in, so he could have had 2 touchdowns. But at home – against the worst run defense in the league, it's going to be real feel of 5 degrees there. I mean, he is going to get
only 30% FanDuel.
Yeah.
I mean, how?
Yeah. 86 on DK. I mean, it's lock and load for Derrick Henry this week. I agree with that. Outside of him, most of these star running backs are in good spots. I mean, CMC at 88, I think is in play. I mean, he's been great without Mitchell. Washington's more of a pass funnel, but with what McCaffrey can do catching the ball, he's definitely in play for me. Barkley has a decent matchup. And then Kenny Walker, I think, is going to, I know that game, you would worry a little bit about them getting down, but he's going to project well at 6,400, I think. And then if Damian Harris is out, Ramondre Stevenson at 71, I think is going to project pretty well. He seemed to be fine last week, there was no real limitations, even after the injury stuff throughout the week. So that's kind of the guys that stick out at first. What to do with the Chiefs guys, I think is interesting because I wrote McKinnon up in all of my articles last week, which you can read for free on the website. And I know that the game script, by the time we got to the weekend, I came around on the Pacheco play. I actually played him in cash, even though I liked McKinnon all week. But I still think they're both going to be in play every week. I do think Pacheco provides value, but even last week, even when they were winning, they still were going to McKinnon in the red zone, and that's been the theme the last few weeks. So I'm wondering, because Pacheco got kind of high owned last week, and no one played McKinnon, so I'm wondering if finally people are going to come around. Yeah, are they finally going to come around to McKinnon? But at 5,900, I mean, for sure, he's in play again, for sure, I think.
Pacheco's the better game theory play this week because now everybody's going to pivot to McKinnon. They're both amazing plays. I'm playing both of them this week, and I'm not playing that many tournament rosters, to be honest. I got so much family stuff going on this week, man. I already know I'm going to be behind. I was trying to get a little ahead, right before we got on this podcast, but I do know one thing. I'm staying pot committed this week. There's a few weeks left, and I want to stick with my gut on a few things because I've been riding somewhat warm here. I think I'm on the zone of getting scorching hot, similar to where you were earlier in the year. But I'm sticking with both of them this week, and I'm just going to sprinkle them around in a few of my lineups on both sites. Something interesting you brought up, I'm not even talking about Derrick Henry, lock button. Cash games, the distribution of your bankroll should be, if you're doing it right, in my opinion, unless you're just a game theory bro, GPP guy, that's cool too. But you have to be even to the field with Derrick Henry this week or over in terms of your bankroll. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, can you lock him in every lineup against Houston? Like, I feel like you almost could this week. There are guys that do that as well. Here's a guy that I thought is interesting that you brought up that nobody's been playing in DFS is Saquon. You brought him up. I was wondering if you were going to bring him up. I love the matchup. He hasn't done it. Price isn't great, but it's not terrible. Man, I just feel like is this like the random nuclear game from Saquon since we haven't seen since like week 5? I mean,
dude, well,
he might be low.
My biggest season long team. I know nobody listening to this cares, but I'm going to tell you. My biggest season long team, with all my friends and stuff, like our home league. I have my team is anchored. I did the reverse of what I always do, and I went running back heavy, and I have Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. So and I'm in the semifinals, so I hope he goes off this week.
You're probably going to just absolutely destroy right now. Yeah, he's an amazing play this week. You brought up Kenneth Walker. You're stealing all the good plays, Ben. I think he's going to be a value this week. I mean, look, he's 6,400. I mean, again, I'm just talking price. Like I like that price. He's probably going to be popular. Stevenson, I mean, this guy, all he does is hit value. Like, you have to consider him in cash games. I feel like I haven't played enough of him this year. 7,100 seems fair, right? So for cash games, quick glance, I mean, I feel like it's going to have to be a Henry, Walker, Stevenson, unless we get some cheap guys. But I'll tell you what, you know who I'm tired of is like Deontay Foreman's. Like, I play these guys, and I think I'm getting cute in my GPPs, and like these guys scored like 2 points. I don't know. Is there anyone cheap this week, Ben? Like right now, we talked about McKinnon and Pacheco. Listen, I'm not playing Alvin Kamara. Like, I know he's going to pop in a ton of projections. Our projections portal, he's like an amazing play right now. I'm curious if Sam bakes more weather into play into the model this week. But like, Ben, I'm like off him. Like, not only did he burn me last week, he didn't burn me, but I don't trust this game, period. Like, yeah, the Browns are the worst out there, but how are you playing this? Because we both know we like to play running backs against the Browns, but I don't trust this game. Like, I just feel like nothing is going to happen in this game, and that includes Kamara. Is that how you're feeling? Are you just full fading him? Like, I don't want to play him at all.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I mean, I think both him and Chubb are in play just because of the weather. I'd probably lean Kamara because, A, he's cheaper, especially, you know, with the injury stuff with their backfield. But, I mean, he was super chalky last week, and he didn't get there, but he still had 90 yards. Like, he didn't score. He was like 9 yards short of the bonus. Like, he could have had a way bigger game, and it's going to be freezing cold. Like you said, there's money coming in on the Saints, and it's a pretty bad run defense. So I do think Kamara's fine. I don't know like about like cash games and stuff right now, like if I'd play him, but I think Kamara is definitely fine.
He'd be a lock at this price against his run D, but it's like that weather is just.
Yeah, I think I prefer I think I prefer like McKinnon to him in pretty much all formats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You save it.
But I do like Kamara. I think Kamara is interesting. I have to think about it a little bit more. I think, but
well, you let me know about that. You let me know. Lastly, anyone else? I mean, again, it doesn't seem like we have too much. Like, I'm just because Deontay Foreman keeps pissing me off. I keep playing him every week. I might just go to Chuba Hubbard and just hope that he ascends because it seems like he's slowly coming on there. 4,900. I mean, I'll take that for a GPP leverage play, right? So I don't know. You get any other cheapies before we go to wide receiver?
Yeah, he's still splitting work with Gus Edwards, but if you want to take a shot on Dobbins in tournaments, like he could easily like score 2 touchdowns against the Falcons. So,
oh yeah, that worked out this week. Except I didn't play the Colts D or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, he's splitting work, so like you really can't play him with any sort of like conviction. But either he or Gus Edwards could score 2 touchdowns. Like the Falcons are a bad run defense. It's cold. They run the ball anyways. So I like either of them in tournaments, but you know, they can't really be cash plays just because, you know, they don't dominate the work, either one of them. But
before we go to wide receiver, again, this is a premium product, but I highly encourage you guys to use it. Like, this is like one of the crux of my final study and later in the week is, again, the projections update all week. Not only can you study ownership projections, the karma value is like telling you, hey, how is this based per price? That's how you use that column. It's like the easiest way to sort what's the best bang for your buck. I mentioned Alvin Kamara is just absolutely obliterating, popping in our model. Pacheco is much higher than our boy McKinnon for what it's worth. So, again, he's a good play this week. And I think game theory-wise, Ben, People are going to be all in on McKinnon.
Well, I
this week.
think
All right.
that people have, which is exactly what I wrote in my article, and it's like people view McKinnon as the pass catching back, right? Which he is. That's, he's not getting. He did get some because Pacheco fumbled last week, and that kind of affected things. But people view McKinnon strictly as like the pass catching back, but he has dominated the red zone work over the last 4 weeks, and he did so again last week. Now, obviously, the thesis of the Pacheco play last week was, KC's going to be up huge against Houston. They're just going to pound Pacheco, and Houston was in that game. That goes back onto us as DFS players, assuming that we know about these games when it's the NFL and literally anything can happen. So once again this week, by the time we get to the weekend, people will be like, KC is going to be up huge on Seattle at home, and they're going to pound Pacheco. Could Seattle be in that game? Sure. And even if they're not, I still think McKinnon's a fine play just because I've seen nothing to indicate that he's going to lose red zone work. I mean, every time they give him the ball, he does good things. So, even if they're winning, if he's going to get the red zone work, I still think he's a really good play. I could see Pacheco being higher owned than him again, even after 2 big games in a row. Because if people are thinking they're going to be up big, they'll just get sucked into Pacheco again.
Before we go to wide receiver, last thing, I'm looking at our live trends tool. It's free. I'm going to make my first ever on the cash process lock bet pick of the week. Ready, Ben? And it's random too. I mean, again, guys, what I'm joking, I'm leading you here to this well, that just look at the data yourself. You don't need me on the podcast every week regurgitating, just look for yourself. I am looking, Ben, if you can pull it up on your end, the live trends tool, the spread percentage. I'm looking at the sharp percentage in specific for the Lions-Panthers game. I have not seen this entire year 40% handle on the sharp percentage on any team. I mean, I look at this literally every day, when I'm drinking my coffee. It's the first thing I look at. On the Panthers, I've never seen sharper money this whole season. They're going to beat the Lions and knock them out of the playoffs. That's my lock of the week, Ben. All right, let's go to wide receiver.
I can't in good conscience. I just can't endorse this. I don't. I want that. I want the Lions to be good, so I just can't endorse this. But I'm looking at what. Yeah, I see. I see it.
This will be our case study, okay, guys. If you're listening,
I will
to
say
the podcast,
though, there was money on the Jets last week, and I thought the Jets were going to win, and they did not.
So, yeah, I mean, they honestly, dude. Let's be real. Brock Wright for 50 yards. Come on.
But the Panthers are both of those teams. That's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be an interesting bad game because the Panthers are still live to somehow win that division. So that's actually going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game.
I love how we got off topic and we're talking Panthers, Lions, which this is football, right? I mean, again, I'm telling you, follow the data, guys. Come back next week and crucify me if I'm wrong. I'm telling you it's a lock. I'm looking at it. I've never seen a 40% handle this entire year. Panthers are going to win this game because why? People with smart money, smarter than you and me and Ben and everyone watching, have a lot of money. They're betting the Panthers are going to win, and they're going to win that game. All right, go to the wide receiver.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, hold on, I'm just looking. I mean, the Lions are favored though, this could explain the money coming in on the Panthers, considering that they're home underdogs to Jared Goff on the road. But regardless, yeah, I said it earlier. Love this spot for Steph Diggs. I think this is a get-right spot for Steph Diggs, so I really, really want to be overweight on him. I think that Jamar Chase could end up being higher owned than Stephon Diggs. So I just like Steph Diggs. And then you have Justin Jefferson at home too, which is a cheat code. I mean, he just goes off every single week. I mean, what can we say about Justin Jefferson at this point? I've said it. I've written it multiple weeks. I believe that all but 6 of his career touchdowns have come at home. He just goes off. I don't know what to say about him anymore. I mean, I think he's the best receiver in the league. But regardless, I like Steph Diggs if you're spending up this week. Some guys that stick out for cash. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, even with Goff's road struggles at 78, is going to project well in a good matchup. You have Chris Moore, again, for Houston, 4,700. He'll be really chalky by the time we get to the weekend, I think, against a pass funnel, Titans team with a pretty bad secondary. If Devontae Parker's out again, Jacoby Myers is 4,800. Kind of ran bad. He didn't do anything until the fourth quarter, but he also had a touchdown called back because the Patriots for some reason called
Did he
timeout.
really?
Yeah, he
I
caught a
didn't know that.
touchdown, but the Patriots had called timeout right before the snap, so it didn't count. So that was tilting. But he's 4,800 if Parker's out. I like him. And then DJ Moore at 5,500 against Detroit. I mean, that feels like just a really easy play for like cash games. And then DK Metcalf
Is he
without
on my
Tyler.
Panthers team?
Yeah, and then DK Metcalf without Lockett at 71 against the Chiefs is going to project well as well. So that's probably the top guys for like cash. I think as of right now that stick out to me.
If we got the monies, I want DK in my lineup without a doubt. I want DK in my lineup. I just don't know how the week's going to play out. Jefferson, yeah, I mean, my God, just play him every week if you can. It's just hard in cash games, but yeah, interesting. You brought up Myers, of course. We're not the type of media outlet that's going to rant and rave about that hilarious play at the end of the Oakland game or the Vegas game. Sorry, but I wonder.
Thing I've ever seen.
I wonder with the bias of the DFS bubble that we live in. Listen, I feel like we've all gotten smarter in this space. It's probably not going to be a big deal at all, but there might be a few people that knock Myers and just be like, I'm not playing him because he's done. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's a lock, like 4,800. I mean, he's going to get 15 points, and that's essentially 3x. So if you're saying Justin Jefferson at 9,300 got 3x, you'd be somewhat okay with that. So it's the same concept, guys. Like, get the 3 to 3.5x if possible. I think Myers is a lock for price. Just based on how running backs kind of looked, even though I like the handful of them, maybe this is a 4 wide receiver slate. You know, there's cheap guys like you mentioned. Moore will probably become popular. Our boy Richie James is kind of shows a nice little value.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Giants guys just because Minnesota's secondary, just so bad. I think any of those Giants guys, Slayton, Hodgins, Richie James, like you could sell me on any of those guys for cheap, but
I feel like James in that game could easily get 12 points, which again, that's really all you need as long as the rest of your lineup is kind of staying the status quo. So those are some of the kind of the cash building blocks that I'm looking at. You mentioned Moore. I mean, 5,500. Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. Tournament pivots, Ben. Let me start, and then I'll go to you. If homeboy is out for the Eagles, Hurts, sorry, had a brain freeze. I mean, A.J. Brown might be 2% owned, and everybody's going to play Minshew. So, like, again, that's where I'm going this week is, like, there's only a few weeks left. Like, I want to win something big here. I'm 100% going to play an A.J. Brown if he's 3 to 5%, which I guarantee he will be this week because people just won't play him. But yet there'll be Minshew that's so highly owned. Again, I could be wrong because it is only a 10-game slate. I really wonder if Amon-Ra St. Brown will be that high owned. I feel like he's not going to be only because I don't know, his price is probably creeping up there where it's scaring some people and there's easier plays. Like, again, Metcalf is a way better play on paper this week. But is he though, right? Like, again, I'm just thinking tournament-wise. Who else, Ben? I don't know. What are you kind of looking at as far as, I wanted last thing on my end. Diggs, lock. I'm sticking with my best ball strategy for main lineup. I mentioned the Allen to Diggs, and I am going to pair both of them up with Gabe Davis, which hasn't worked at all this year for anybody, I feel like, in any week. But I got Gabe Davis on my best ball, Ben. I am all in. I'm going Bills onslaught this week, so you damn well better know in both FanDuel and DraftKings, if the Bills go nuclear, I'm going to be looking good. I mean, I might play 4 guys on the Bills, including Dawson Knox at tight end.
Yeah, you could definitely sell me on Gabe Davis in tournaments at 5K. I like for like a cheaper tournament play, Jahan Dotson's 3,900. I mean, San Fran's defense is absolutely sick, but you can beat them over the middle of the field. Dotson, couple big games in a row. We've kind of seen these rookies, they come on at the end of the season, and Dotson, he was good early on too. He just got hurt, but he's been coming on the last few weeks. Obviously, we would assume that Washington will need to be throwing against San Fran, and he's only 3,900, so I think that's a really, really good price to like pivot off of like Chris Moore. Like getting Jahan Dotson for 700-800 less than Chris Moore, I think is a really good tournament move. So Dotson, I think, is the one guy that kind of sticks out to me for tournaments.
Yeah, I like that call. I actually took a look at that too. That's interesting. Anyone else? I guess let's go to tight end.
Yeah, tight end. Obviously, Kelsey at the top, fine in all formats. We don't really need to dive into him much. Outside of him, So we kind of have this situation where we have Chigakonkwo up to 3,500. Decent game again last week. I think he's first overall in yards per route run among tight ends. He doesn't run a ton of routes, only 30% of the time. 30% of Tannehill's dropbacks he's run a route on, but he gets targets when he does run those routes, and they don't really use him to block a ton. But the problem is I think Treylon Burks might be back this week, which could maybe affect him a little bit. So I need to dive into that more. But he's going to project well, I think, as of right now, based off what he's done the last few weeks. Other than him, I don't really see anyone really cheap. I mean, you can use a Hunter Henry in tournaments if Parker's out. You could use a Noah Fant or even Dalton Schultz at 4,200. But I really don't see anything that distinctly sticks out at tight end. I think that if the Browns game wasn't so cold, I would have interest in both Njoku and Juwan Johnson. But I don't know, that weather's really kind of giving me pause there. So tight end, I think, for me, is really, really tough as of right now. So I think if I was going to take a shot on someone, I would probably pick, I don't know, Dawson Knox. I mean, if we had Hurts and Dallas Goedert would just be massive chalk at 4,500. But I'm wondering if he gets super high owned just because of the Minshew situation. But regardless, 4,500 Dallas Goedert is going to project pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, he's going to be owned without a doubt. He'll project very well, like you said. Dalton Schultz burned a lot of us last week, including myself. I'll probably go back to the well. I mean, he's cheaper than Goddard, and if Goddard's more owned, I mean, it's definitely an amazing play. What about the Santa Claus for the Christmas spirits? I mean, he's got to be play without Lockett, right? I would assume.
Yeah, we've been down I could see him. I could see him getting steamed up, especially Burks is in. Maybe people don't want to play Chig as much, and they just go to Fant for $100 less on DK.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, it's God, every week it's just disgusting.
It's bad. It's pretty bad this week, I think.
Get a Kelsey lineup in there. If Goddard is definitely, I think, playable no matter who quarterback is, and then probably Schultz. And believe me, I need Dawson Knox or Njoku, one of those guys this week for my best ball team that I think is live. But unfortunately, Njoku's in a really tough spot. I mean, his price looks good. It's just we would not downplay weather this much, but this is going to be insane, Ben. I mean, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, it's going to be crazy. So that's all I got. Defense, let's finish strong here.
Yeah, I could see Carolina being pretty chalky. 2,300 at home against road Jared Goff with the sharp money coming in on them. Yeah, so I could see that. But you have the Eagles right there, so I think that's interesting. Obviously, Dak is better than Jared Goff, but he did throw some picks last week. He's been throwing picks the last few weeks. Pick 6 to end the game last week. Eagles D is actually good. They're actually a good defensive team. So
wow, they're 2,200.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're a little bit cheaper than the Panthers even. So I think Eagles are interesting. Wow. Chiefs at 29, big home favorites. I think that's interesting. So there's actually several sub 3K options at defense that I think are in play this week.
Jeez, the Saints at 2,800. I mean, again, we just mentioned the weather. The Browns are obviously
how are the Browns 3,800? What's up with that?
I don't understand, man.
I guess they had that big week against Houston, I guess, a few weeks ago. So
Dalton could absolutely shit his pants. He sucks here in Cleveland historically. I don't know his record, but it is not good. The Browns owned him when he was with the Bengals for the most part. So I don't know, man. Outdoor game. The Browns, they'll be 2% owned. If you got enough salary, why not toss a couple bucks on them? But yeah, I mean, that does it, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to the slate. I think it sounds a little bit better after we kind of ran through it. I think the overall play is it seems like wide receiver, there's value plays, right? I mean, it's just based on what we went through. Maybe we will be able to get to our higher price running backs, maybe even in the flex. So it should be an interesting week. Anything else?
Yeah, it'll always be fun. Even though I don't like the slate a ton on first look, it'll always be fine by the time we get to the weekend. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody watching this video. Like the video on YouTube if you would. We appreciate it. It does really help us out. We'll have all the normal content up this week. We'll just move the stream. So instead of doing the stream in the morning on Sunday, it'll be on Christmas Eve for the big slate. So I'll be live 11 a.m. like normal, answering all your guys' questions. Join us for that. And yeah, good luck this week.